to do another update, but it will be Blu-ray, DVD, VHS, and Laserdisc. What I have is a few Blu-rays that I've received since the last time I did a Blu-ray update. I also have DVD, VHS, and Laserdisc going back to way before. And I had those Criterion videos I had to put in between just to make those relevant for the time, so I'm just now catching up to the update I promised you from before. First thing I want to show you is just my Blu-rays that I've received. This is one I talked about in that Criterion update that I was waiting on, which is Life During Wartime, the Todd Solondz movie. Good. I haven't got a chance to finish it all. I started it last night. I just barely received it. And I hate to recommend him to people because I really like his movies, but at the same time, they're not the kind of movies that everybody's going to like. It's definitely a very nervous, just impending doom kind of storyline, which is, a lot of his movies are like that. I think Welcome to the Dollhouse is probably my favorite, and it's a little bit more lighthearted than some of the other ones, but they're all pretty dark. And they're good stories. It's just they're not for everybody. But this has got Paul Reubens in it and a few other actors. I definitely want to check it out anyway. But if you're familiar with his films at all, Todd Solondz, then you might check this out. This is one that was recommended to me by Wet Movie One, and at the time I didn't realize that this was done by Takashi Miike, or Mika Takashi. This is a samurai film, and it's kind of a revenge story. I don't really want to get into it because if you've seen samurai films, it's got that similar kind of vibe that you would get from a lot of those. But what is really surprising on this is the amount of psychological terror, the elements of horror that you see in this, whether it's violence or just disturbing images, things like that. I actually really enjoyed this. So if you're kind of a horror fan and you're familiar with Takashi Miike, like The Audition and stuff like that, it's the same guy, it's just he's done a different genre of film, but it's still got his own take on it. This is another film that I picked up recently. I think these are done by Magnet. I'm not for sure if it's put out directly by Magnet, but they're promoted the same time that the Magnet films were promoted in different kind of movies. But this is called Stakeland, and I'd heard about this movie before. I think Absolute Sublime 1, Jay had put up a video where he talked about this, and it sounded interesting. Well, I went and watched it, and I actually really enjoyed this. A lot of people said it's like Cormac McCarthy's The Road if it had vampires in it. That is a very, very similar analogy for this. But I really like this. It's very dark. It's probably the first film I've seen that makes vampires scary again in a long time. I don't even really remember a movie I saw where vampires were very scary before that one. It's just a really interesting take. This is one that I watched, and I actually still need to watch the end of this. I kind of fell asleep a few times watching this at night, and I've missed bits and pieces of it, and I need to go back and watch it all together at the same time. But this is Dylan Dog. I originally didn't want to watch this at all. I actually ended up watching it because it was recommended to me for people that like the TV show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It does have a kind of a similar vibe. It's funny. And this guy, Brandon Routh, he plays Dylan Dog, and he is like a private investigator who gets involved with these supernatural type things. It's got a little bit of comedy added in with a little bit of horror. It's got some pretty good low budget special effects. Some of those are like the creature feature rubber mask type effects, so I kind of like that. This is one that I just recently picked up on a recommendation, and that is Stand By Me. Hadn't got a chance to watch this yet, but I love this movie, and I've been thinking about picking it up on DVD for a long time because I have it on Laserdisc, but I just haven't watched it. And so I thought, if I'm going to pick it up, I might as well get the Blu-ray and see what it looks like. But yeah, Stand By Me. That was recommended to me by the Flick Pick, John at the Flick Pick. And here's a couple that I just barely received. This is Inglourious Basterds and Sucker Punch. These are both Canadian release steelbooks for Blu-ray. These movies are both movies I've owned before. These are just kind of like upgrades because the cases I thought were really cool. This movie here I actually just recently watched, and I like Sucker Punch, and I think this was a really cool steelbook edition. And then Inglourious Basterds, of course. Quentin Tarantino films are always really good. They're high on my list. Another one that was just recommended to me recently is Falling Down. I hadn't actually seen this in a long, long time. I remember when it came out to movie theaters, and then I also remember seeing it when it came out on video, but I don't know if I've seen it in the last 10 years or whatever, but this is one of those Blu-ray books. Falling Down. I hadn't got a chance to check it out yet, but it's a film I had seen in the past, and I really enjoyed it. It's kind of dark. It's a really good Michael Douglas film. If you've never seen it, definitely check it out. And the nostalgia for seeing different Final Destination movies. I started watching some of the other ones now that I've seen the preview for Final Destination 5, and I decided to go ahead and pick up the Final Destination 3D. I had the other Final Destination 3D, the Anaglyph or whatever 3D, and that 3D gives me a headache so bad. So I got a chance. I was like, oh, I'm going to pick this up because I think it includes a ticket to go see Final Destination 5. And so my girlfriend, she really wanted to see that. So I thought, well, you know, we'll get a free shot at the movies on that one. The next one I picked up was Source Code. I actually had mixed feelings about this movie. I think it's a good movie. I think it's interesting. It's well acted. There's a lot of parts in this movie that I really enjoyed. But at the same time, I found it a little bit predictable. It tried to come off as kind of an action movie, but a lot of the scenes that I was watching were so familiar to me. I guess watching TV shows like Twilight Zone and growing up with that kind of thing, I just knew kind of what to expect. But all in all, I enjoyed it. I was glad I picked it up. I was glad I watched it. Then we'll get into a few movies I just hadn't got a chance to see yet. This one I got just because it was really cheap, and it's called Trust. And I'm assuming this is about a predator that goes after a child, you know, online or something like that. It was really super cheap, like $12 or something like that, but I can't say much on that. I just don't really know. Catherine Keener's really good. I always like all of her stuff, and I heard Clive Owen's really good in this, but probably a little bit of a disturbing movie. I don't know if that was a really good buy, but I got it cheap. Same goes for this. I haven't got a chance to watch this yet, but Fantastic Mr. Fox. I like Wes Anderson films, and this was going for like $9 not too long ago, and it includes the Blu-ray and the DVD. So I went ahead and picked that up. That's one of the few Wes Anderson films I've never seen. Same goes for this one. I picked this one up because it was really cheap. I had a coupon online where I got, I think, $6 off this or something crazy like that. But I ended up picking this up. And I've never seen it, but I've heard good things about it. We'll get into some of the films I have seen that I really enjoyed. This is Take Me Home Tonight. I really like this. I thought that it had a good feel for the 80s. Not only does it remind me of the 80s, but it also reminds me of the movies from the 80s. So it's got kind of a double-edged sword type of approach to the films. It tried to make people see all the things that they remember from the 80s, but it also tried to kind of play up all the stereotypical things that happened in 80s screwball comedies and 80s teen comedies and the John Hughes style things. But yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I love the soundtrack, so that was a good one for me to pick up. The next one I watched was Insidious. I've been preaching about this movie all year. I really enjoyed it. I saw it at the theaters and told everybody I liked it, and then I watched it again on home video. And it does lose a little bit of its impact after the first time, but I still really enjoy it, and I will probably end up watching that again at Halloween. But I really like Insidious. My only complaint was I thought the special features and the home video release in general was a little bit lacking, but all in all, I really enjoyed it. Lincoln Lawyer, this was good, but at the same time, probably wasn't as good as I'd hoped it would be, but I enjoyed it a lot. I like legal dramas, and I like kind of like smart legal thriller style movies, so I went ahead and watched that. And I'm about to get into some DVDs, but before I do that, I will show you the most recent DVD I got, including just this morning. And it's the I Am Nancy, the one that Heather Langenkamp had done, which is the documentary about her playing Nancy on the Nightmare on Elm Street films, which she played it, I believe, twice, sort of 3 times. She played herself in A New Nightmare, but she played the role of Nancy on Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and 3, which are both great. That's probably my 2 favorite Nightmare on Elm Streets, and I think it has a lot to do with her. I'm a really big fan of Heather Langenkamp. But she wrote on here, whatever you do, don't fall asleep. I bought this directly from her website. This plastic case I've got it in is just for protection. It's like a cardboard folder, but it's got a really cool design on the inside, which is similar to the design she has on her website. And also, if you notice, it's very similar to the pajamas she was wearing when she was playing Nancy on the original Nightmare on Elm Street. So I've just got this in this protector here just because of the signature. She signed that DVD and then wrote that little quote on there. Very cool. And then she also included this. I ordered this, but I didn't really know that she was going to sign both of them. I knew she would sign this, but this was also really cool. On this one, she wrote Sweet Dreams, Heather Langenkamp, and then on this one, she put Whatever You Do, Don't Fall Asleep. So, two different cool quotes and two different autographs from Heather Langenkamp. Couldn't be happier. I haven't got a chance to watch that, but I am very hopeful to watch it maybe tonight. I watched that Never Sleep Again documentary and loved it, and ever since then I've been hearing about this documentary that was coming, and finally it's here, so I am really, really excited. I am stoked. I picked up The Good Wife, and I have to say I was really late getting to the game on this one. I've heard people talking about this. My girlfriend had been talking about it. People at work had been talking about it, and I really like legal thrillers, and I didn't expect this to be very good. And then I started watching it. I really enjoyed it, and now Season 2 is coming out on DVD, I think, like next month, and Season 3 is about to start. But this is actually one of the better TV shows that are on right now. If you like legal dramas, it is definitely the best of those. Then I picked up, of course, this is the complete 14th season of South Park, which that show, I've been saying recently that I think that show is just as relevant as it always has been. And I think it's just recently that I've started to notice that it doesn't quite have the same impact that it used to. And maybe it's just because I haven't really got back into South Park again. I haven't watched it the last couple of seasons. I've just been picking it up on DVD, so maybe I should give that another chance. I haven't watched all of that season yet, just like a couple of discs. Now we'll show some films that I've picked up on DVD. Rubber, of course. This is the UK import, and I really love this cover. This was available in the UK way before it was in the US, and that's the reason I have this version. But of course, like I said before, these are going back several months, so it has released in the US since then. It's just the US version is much more expensive than the UK version. The UK version was about, I think, like $12 or $13 shipped is what I got it for, because it was only like £5 or something like that. It was really cheap when I found it. But it does have a reversible cover. This is the cover I enjoy. I think it just looks really cool. But this is the cover that it originally came with, which is that one, which is also cool. It's got more of like a, like a 70s, 80s art cover. But this one is kind of like more like an artistic style, black and white and red cover. So I think they're both pretty cool, but I always enjoy reversible covers. So Rubber, and that film is insane. The best way I can describe it is if you like David Lynch movies, maybe Cronenberg films, and you see these weird parts of the film that don't really make sense, this is a whole movie based on the idea that not everything has to make sense. And it states that right at the beginning of the movie, and it just continues from there. There's no rhyme or reason. It's almost like an experimental film, but it's very enjoyable, very funny, and just crazy. The next movie I picked up was Salvador. I got this really cheap. I ended up ordering this used online, and it was one of those movies that I'd heard about on and off, but I never really knew exactly what it was about. Puck Bond 007, EJ, he'd recommended this to me, and I picked it up, and I really enjoyed it. So I appreciate that, man. Thanks for the heads up on that film. That was good. These are a couple of Big Lots films that I picked up. I haven't actually watched either one of these since I got them. These were both like just $3, but this is Memories. This was originally shown on The Wisest Wizards had done a Rough Cuts video where they showed this. I remember them reviewing how, like it was just a whole bunch of kind of like an anthology style movie, but it was done with anime. So yeah, it just sounded interesting. It looked interesting, and I thought, for just like $3, I'm going to try it out. This is also another one I got that was just said altered. It said from the director of Blair Witch Project. So I just thought I'd give it a try. I haven't actually watched that yet. Okay, and then the next one I got was one that was recommended to me by Eight the Chosen One, and I had forgotten all about this movie, Citizen X. I remember when it very first came out, it advertised a lot on HBO, and I never got a chance to watch it. It had a great cast and everything, but if you've never seen this, this is a very straightforward serial killer drama, and it's just a good movie. Not like over-the-top gore. It's not shown through the eyes of the killer or anything like that. It's shown through the eyes of the detectives and how hard they have to work to try to solve this crime, and it goes on for many years. But it also shows you all of the bureaucracy that goes into forming the task force and the detectives and who's in charge and all the things you have to do to solve such a complicated case. But yeah, if you've never seen it, Citizen X. And this next film I got was one that was sent to me by Film Courage, and this is The Night Before the Wedding, and they kind of played this up as a serious film, even though it's got some comedic undertones. But I'm looking forward to watching this. This was one that was I was excited for them to send it to me for me to review. So I will definitely do a video at a later date where I will talk about this film. But if you get a chance, definitely check out Film Courage. They have a YouTube channel. And there's a trailer for this film here, The Night Before the Wedding. So if you're into independent, style movies and dramas that have, a little bit of everything to offer, definitely go check that out. Now we're going to talk about some things that aren't DVD and are not Blu-ray. And you guys could probably guess what they are, but one of the things I probably hadn't mentioned that I was going to show, I will show now. And that is this HD DVD of Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie and Clyde is a really impressive movie. Especially if you've never watched it, it's kind of like a movie like Psycho or something like that. You can't say much about why it's good without running it, but I would just say if you've never seen Bonnie and Clyde, I think you will be very surprised by the date and time that it was made, considering what actually takes place in that movie. And I don't really want to get much more into it than that. But yeah, Bonnie and Clyde is a classic, and then this I just wanted to pick up because I'd never seen one before, and this may be the only one that's out there. There may be one or two others, but the only one I know of. But similar to the Blu-ray books, this is an HD DVD book, so it's exact same style as those done with HD DVDs. So during the early days of the Blu-ray books, there was also an HD DVD book. And that's it. So this also includes a 34-page book that tells you information about Bonnie and Clyde. Some VHS I picked up, not very much, but I picked up the Dino Riders. I got this at like a Goodwill thrift store type place. It was only $1. Really cool, nostalgic style television series. Not that great, but for $1 I really enjoyed it. Then I picked this up at a garage sale. This is Neil Simon, Seems Like Old Times. I hadn't seen this in a long time. I'm looking to clean my VCR and then I can catch up on some of these. So yeah, this is definitely one I look forward to. I saw that a lot when I was a kid. I hadn't seen it recently. And the next one I got, I have been hearing about this movie forever, and I remember it being at the video store when I was a kid, but it's the Peanut Butter Solution. I've never actually seen this, and I've seen it, I've only seen parts of it. But it just seems so crazy that I just can't wait any longer. I kept thinking maybe it'd come out on DVD, or maybe it would end up being on some kind of like burn-on-demand series or something like that. But I haven't been able to find anywhere, and I don't think it even exists on Laserdisc. So yeah, I got the Peanut Butter Solution finally on VHS. The next thing I want to show you is this is a Laserdisc lot that I bought. And I really only got it for one film. But I will briefly go through and show everything that was in there, and I may or may not keep a lot of these, but The Big Hurt, I know almost nothing about this. Paradise, I've actually never seen this also. I even vaguely, just barely remember that it ever came out. Man Who Loved Women, I've actually never heard of this film either. Free Willy 2, I've never seen this. Quest, I am not a humongous fan of Jean-Claude Van Damme. And this goes the same way for this one. This is Hard Target. This was a John Woo film, though, so I would like to see this just to see how good maybe some of the choreography and the action of the fighting is. This movie here, Indio, I've never seen it, but it has Brian Dennehy and it has marvelous Marvin Hagler. Secrets and Lies, this is another film I wasn't really familiar with. Once I got to reading about it, I kind of vaguely remember it. I guess this was kind of a bigger award winner around '96. Oscar, I remember when this came out. I don't really remember if I ever watched it or not. Another Sylvester Stallone movie with Kurt Russell. And this is Tango and Cash. I do remember this. I've seen it a lot, just hadn't seen it in probably about 15 years, something like that. Captain Ron, I will probably keep this just for Martin Short, just to see how funny it is. I don't really remember watching this, but I will go ahead and watch it and see what I think. Then, of course, Animal House. I don't know if there's anybody out there there that hasn't seen Animal House, but if you haven't, definitely check it out. But I have this on DVD already, but I think this is a really cool cover, so I may keep this just because it's Animal House. This is Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan. I haven't seen this in a long time. Not too bad. I always enjoyed it when I was younger, so yeah. Gorillas in the Mist, which I think is really interesting. I haven't actually seen this probably since it was released on VHS, but I probably would like to go back and watch this again. This is one of those things where Dian Fossey is an interesting person, and I also really enjoyed studying about Jane Goodall, who worked with chimpanzees. And then this one, I was really lucky that this was in the lot that I got. This is Alfred Hitchcock's Notorious, which has Cary Grant, Ingrid Bergman, and Claude Rains, which you'll remember Claude Rains from the Invisible Man series. It's a good movie, but it's not necessarily the same kind of movie that Hitchcock was putting out in the 60s when he was like really getting into like his heyday, you know, like the late 50s, early 60s. But yeah, if you like Alfred Hitchcock's earlier stuff, this fits somewhere in between, you know, because he has a lot of really early work too. A classic. I love this film. Paper Moon reminds me so much of like growing up and watching this a lot. And when I was a kid and I watched this, I thought this was a really old film. It took until I was a little older, you know, like junior high or something for that, before I realized this film was just shot in black and white, you know, and it's not as old as you would think. And I always wondered about that. But yeah, this is just from 1973. It's Paper Moon, and this is a hilarious, you know, drama / comedy. I just love it. I think it's out of print right now on DVD, but definitely check that out if you ever get a chance, Paper Moon. And of course, Godfather Part 2, which is my favorite Godfather. I like the original one, and 1 and 2 go together really well. But Part 2 is great because I'm one of those guys that if you really like Part 1, I'm a sucker for flashbacks where you can learn something before Part 1 and add something after Part 1. And Godfather Part 2 definitely does that. I love all the roles that Robert De Niro does, but that role right there is one of my favorites just because, you know, just to see Robert De Niro be in a Godfather movie was amazing. And I won't get into much more than that because if for some reason you haven't seen Godfather 2, definitely check it out. And then Hamburger. This is the movie I've been looking for forever. I finally found it on VHS. My VCR tried to eat it, which this film is pretty expensive. So if you know how crazy it is when a VCR starts eating tapes. So I've been looking for this on Laserdisc for roughly about 7 years, something like that, maybe 8 years. But this Laserdisc alone often fetches like 50, 60 bucks because of how rare it is and because of how popular the movie is without a DVD release. But I actually got the whole bunch of all the Laserdiscs I just showed just because of this film. And the reason I wanted to get all these and not care how much the other one was is because all these Laserdiscs together were about half of what this by itself is worth. So I was very, very fortunate. Okay, that's it. I'm going to wrap this up now, but I just want to say, if you guys get a chance, definitely check out all those people I've mentioned before, and also definitely go check out Planet Beer Wagon. Right now, he's going for 2,000 subs, and this is one of those things where he really, really has a good shot at picking up the end of that. And if you go over there and you sub him, and then you leave a comment on his channel telling him that I sent you, we'll both get entered into a contest. So if for some reason you're not subscribed to Planet Beer Wagon, definitely go over and subscribe to him right now and leave a comment on his channel telling him that I sent you, Cynical44. Okay, you guys have a good day, and I will talk to you later.